So I'm going to go and show you guys how I tie my hackamore setup. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind before you go about tying your hackamore setup with a bosal and a Mecate. Is you want a bosal and a Mecate that are the same diameter and size. You don't want a 5/8 bosal with a 1/2 inch Mecate or vice versa. You want the same diameter, because if you don't, that's going to throw off the balance of your hackamore setup and you're not going to get very good results from your horse, especially if you're wanting a very light and responsive horse that responds to signal. It's going to mess with the balance and mess with that pre-signal and that signal that you give that horse. Second thing you need to keep in mind is you want a 22-foot long Mecate, nothing shorter, because that is going to give you enough space at the end when you have your tail to take that Mecate, and this is the wrong side, but it's my free hand, and either tuck it into your belt loop and give that horse enough slack with that tail to where it's not affecting when they put their head down and pulling on that hackamore or anything like that, or even tie it onto your saddle. And so you want to make sure that you have a 22-foot long Mecate, so it gives you a long enough tail to be able to do those things without giving a really tight tail that's going to affect how your horse responds when it puts its head down by taking slack. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take the end of your Mecate that has the Turk's head knot. The Turk's head knot is going to prevent it from sliding through and coming undone while you're riding it. It's going to hold it in place. You're going to take that, you're going to take your bosal and put it down and face it towards you as if your horse was facing right at you with it on. Take the end of that Mecate and place it in there. Now keep in mind, you want to give a little bit of space here, because if you have it up right here and take your wraps, you're going to be taking your wraps really high, and that's not going to make for a very tight and clean wrap. Give it a little bit, enough space for whatever diameter Mecate you have to be able to take your wraps down low and make a tight and clean wrap. What you're going to do next is you're going to reach over the left hand side, pull it up and over to the right. And the reason why you go from the left to the right is because at the end, when you're finished tying off, the tail of your Mecate is going to be on the left hand side of the horse. You don't want it on the right hand side. And crossing it underneath to put it on the left hand side is going to affect the balance of the bosal as well, because it's going to be tangled up in the reins and stuff. So you want to go from the left up over to the right. And as you're doing this, you're going to pull those wraps really tight, just like that. And as I'm doing that, I will take, you can see this wrap, there's a little bit of a gap here. I'll take these wraps and I'll squish them down onto that heel knot there to make a really nice, clean, tight wrap. So you're pulling them tight and you're pulling them down to that heel knot. Again, from the left over to the right, pull it tight, squish it down, just like that. Squish it down. See, getting really nice, clean, tight wraps. There's just enough gap there where that heel, where this Turk's head isn't affecting the wraps, but it's up nice and close right there, so it's not going to do anything. And then when you go to make your reins, Reba only requires 2 wraps on her hackamore because she has a very boxy nose. She's got a Mustang head. If you need to take more wraps, take more wraps to make it fit your horse's head. Keeping that nice and tight. What I like to do when I go to make the reins is I like to pick my Mecate up and then put it down through towards the bottom, just like that. And then pull it through. Because if you were to just grab a bunch and shove it through, a lot of the times because these Mecates are twisted, you'll end up with it doing this on the back side and twisting up. And when it twists up like that, when you go and grab your reins and you go to have your loop in your hand, the slack of your Mecate, and adjust your reins, that can cause that loop of that Mecate to just act real funky, and it can be super annoying. So I like to grab a lot and kind of drop it down in there. And the way you're supposed to go about measuring the length of your reins is you're supposed to take your hackamore and put it up to your saddle horn and drop those reins down until it reaches about the pastern of that horse. Now, I like to take a little bit shorter of reins. That's just my preference, but around that general area will give you a really nice, clean, like just nice length of reins. After you drop your reins through, make sure that they're nice and straight, that they're not kinking up and making weird coils. You're going to take those reins and make sure that they're side by side. You don't want this tight and stacked up on top of each other. You're going to kind of separate where that goes and put your reins just like that. And then after you got your reins, you can see here, I'll show you guys a little better. That was kind of meshed together. Just like that. Smash them down so they're nice and even. Your wraps are nice and tight and clean. You're going to keep that facing up towards you, and you're going to do a half hitch. You're going to take your hand and you're going to twist that tail in towards the bosal, just like that, so it forms a loop just like this, and put it over the top, just like that. I'll show you guys again, because this is the part that confused me on which way to twist it. I used to always try to twist it this way, and it doesn't work. Twist it towards the bosal. A half hitch that you twist towards the bosal. You take that, and you put it over the top, and you pull that nice and snug and tight. And you adjust it and you kind of play with it. You may have to kind of move your wraps around and squish them down again and stuff like that. And then right there, there's that half hitch right there. And then you got yourself a hackamore setup. And then you can see here the tail comes out on the left-hand side. So that tail will go up into your belt loop or tied to your saddle, and it's on the correct hand side, the same side that you're going to adjust your hanger. And right there is how you get a hackamore setup. And you can take some time too when you're done, making sure that you got that last half hitch nice and tight so that it's not going to come loose. And that is how you tie your hackamore setup. You could see, I'll break the parts down for you so you could see, because it's kind of hard to see. You got your, I'll have to loosen this. I got that tight. You got your half hitch right here, which the bottom part right here is the rein. There's your two reins going through, and then your wraps. And that right there, again, squish down these reins. Now it kind of loosened up that I loosened everything up. Want your reins nice and squished down next to each other like that, so when you squish them down, you got a nice flat surface right there for your half hitch to come around and come nice and clean and snug. And that is how you go about tying a hackamore setup. And then you got, ooh, I'm all messed up here. You got your reins right here, and then you got your tail to tuck into your belt loop or tie onto your saddle.